You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
It's a Monday. We've got McGuire. I'm Dan. Pierre, we'll get to the Leafs in one moment. Buffalo Bills fans, I feel for you. And Pierre's here to give you words of encouragement to get through the month of February.
Oh, I felt so bad for the Buffalo Bills. I really did. I remember listening to Wide Right when the New York Giants and Bill Parcells beat them way back when. I was actually scouting a junior game in Granby, Quebec, watching Philippe Boucher play when that happened. So I just think about the growth of the Buffalo Bills, the positive energy for the Buffalo Bills, and at some point, things are going to shake out for them the right way. They've had a phenomenal year. I feel terrible for them and their fans. They're the best fans in the National Football League, and I'm a New York Giants fan. So I can tell you right now, I'd rather be a Buffalo Bill right now than a New York Giant. So hats off to a great year. I just felt really bad for them yesterday.
Two big calls, the fourth and one where Josh Allen looked to have got it. That didn't go the Bills' way. And then a jump catch that the ball hits the ground when the two players come down. It's ruled in the Chiefs' favor. So the conspiracy theories, they're running rampant. Pierre, you've seen the inner workings of professional sports. There's no calls being made to the refs saying, okay, let the Chiefs win, but it has to get in their head at some point, like, oh, this team's really good, and they probably get the benefit of the doubt in those cases.
I think that's probably one of the best ways to describe it, benefit of the doubt. I remember as a kid growing up in Montreal, and whenever teams would come into Montreal, they'd always say, oh, but the league's got it fixed. The Canadians are going to get all the calls. Well, I also coached in that building too, and it always felt like, even though the referees and you got along well, it always felt like, well, you were battling an extra element. I think part of that is because of the success of a franchise. And the Kansas City Chiefs have been unbelievably successful. I mean, I don't know. You'd have to tell me, Dan. I can't think of another time where a team's got a chance to go to 3 straight Super Bowls and win. I know they've done it twice now. They're going for 3 in a row now, which is unbelievable. That's rarefied air. So I think they get a lot of street cred with a lot of people, not just the fans in Kansas City. But I think the same thing happens in hockey. Sometimes teams just have such a big reputation. Human nature dictates, well, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to a close call.
And when friends of mine who are Leafs fans say, it's fixed, they don't want the Leafs to win, that's where I sit them down. I say, no, you don't understand. The league, if they could place the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup final, they would. Of all the teams, that is the team they want in the final. Agree or disagree, Pierre McGuire?
Oh, I don't know whether the league wants that or not, but here's what I'll tell you. I know what the numbers are financially, and you want the Toronto Maple Leafs playing against the New York Rangers as many times as possible in the Stanley Cup final. Now, I know it can't happen, obviously, because they're in the same conference, both in the Eastern Conference. But if you could do that, you would do that as many times as possible. And if you can't do that and you need to pick a team from the West, it would sure help if the Chicago Blackhawks played the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, 100%. The Leafs are a revenue generator for the league. At the start of last week, we looked at the Leafs 3 games, and I said at the start of the year, you're looking at this from the Leafs standpoint, saying, okay, we got 6 points, an easy 6 points. They came away with 2 points from the week as they got beat in Columbus despite, they're badly outshot. I believe the Jackets only had like 20 shots on net. And they win 5-1. And then big Saturday night game in Ottawa, the Senators beat the Leafs. So your take on the week?
Well, first of all, I want to give Anton Forsberg a lot of credit. I thought he played a tremendous game. Joseph Wall played really well for Toronto as well. That was a great goaltending battle. That's why it's 2-1. Timmy Stützle scored on a 2-man advantage. That makes a big difference for Ottawa. Their power play is usually electrifying, and it was on this night when they needed it to matter the most. It did. Ottawa won the special teams battle, Dan. They had 2 power plays. They scored on 1. Toronto had 1 power play. They scored on none. So that made a difference. I didn't mind the way Toronto played. As a matter of fact, I thought that was one of their better games of the week, to be totally honest with you. I thought there was an urgency from Ottawa, but I also thought there was an urgency from Toronto. The thing that I'm starting to warm up about with Toronto, they missed John Tavares a lot. I think everybody knows that. Now you see the value of Matthew Nyes and what he can do for the team. Not having Max Pacioretty, not having Connor Dewar, not having Anthony Stolarz. There's a lot of stuff missing from Toronto. I'm actually encouraged by their team. I'm encouraged by the play of Mitchell Marner. I'm encouraged by the play of Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I'm really encouraged by the play of Bobby McMahon. There's a lot to like there. And I know people are saying, well, they've only won 3 of their last 5. It's true. You can't debate the numbers. But, Dan, there's a lot to like about this Toronto Maple Leaf team, and I'm going to keep saying it.
Whenever there's a Hockey Night in Canada game in Ottawa on a Saturday night, I am remiss if I don't I just think back to when Bob Cole called those games, because Bob, at the end of his career, he didn't know all the players' names, so he would insert the team name in there. So we had a drinking game in which every time Bob Cole said Ottawa, you had to take a drink. Oh boy, it was not safe. That was not a safe game to play. But I digress. Bob Cole. Oh, jeez. Will there ever be another Bob Cole?
Well, you know what? Chris Cuthbert's working towards that. I think Chris Cuthbert's done an unbelievable job. What a career he's had. I had the privilege of working a lot of games with Chris, both south of the border and north of the border, and nothing bigger than the Stanley Cup, the gold medal game from 2010 in Vancouver with Sidney Crosby yelling at Jerome McGinley, Iggy, Iggy, Iggy. He gets the puck in front. Sidney beats Ryan Miller. And the iconic call by Chris Cuthbert. And that's how I think play-by-play guys are remembered. The iconic call of the golden goal by Chris Cuthbert was phenomenal. It's something I'll never forget. I thought Chris was outstanding that entire Olympics and deserves a lot of credit. That being said, I thought the gold standard for many years was Bob Cole and Harry Neal. Together, they were really, really good as a partnership. They were really good.
Harry.
Yeah.
we still throw that out to this day with buddies. Oh, Harry.
That's so well.
Okay, so back to the Leafs. They've got one game tune-up against the Wild before they venture out west. Keys to get set for that western trip in that game against the Wild.
Take advantage of your practice days. The one thing that's been really beneficial for Toronto after a really tight schedule is having some off days, getting a chance for some guys to rest and rehabilitate, but also for them to implement some more structure in their game. And I think you're starting to see that again. I thought the game Saturday, even though they lost 2-1, Dan, there was a lot of good structure, especially in their own zone. They did a much better job against a high-flying Ottawa Senator team. So take advantage of these extra days of rest. Take advantage of a Minnesota team that's beaten up and tired, even though they beat Calgary yesterday, and make sure going forward that you're ready for this 4-game swing out west, which starts in Calgary. Or in Edmonton, In
Edmonton. Goes Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, Vancouver. And I've lived in Alberta. I've lived in BC. And for Leafs players who haven't made that trip, they don't know what's awaiting them, because when the Leafs come to town in Western Canada, it's like nothing I had experienced, because when the Leafs come to town.
Well, it's almost like they're the home team. In a lot of those instances, you're spot on. I remember when I first broke into the media side of it with the Canadiens back in the day. The Canadiens would always go out west during the holiday season, and it was unbelievable, Dan, how many fans showed up cheering for Montreal. And I think it's the very same thing, for the Toronto Maple Leaf faithful, and it's just phenomenal to witness. I broadcast a bunch of those games back in the day, and you're absolutely right. It is a sight to behold. It's great. It's great for the young players to learn about the legacy and tradition of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, no, it's something I always look forward to when I was part of the Canadiens, and I'm sure the Maple Leaf faithful are really excited about it as well.
Can we say potential Stanley Cup preview, Oilers-Leafs?
I think it's a little early to do that, especially for the Oilers.
But I know it's early, but can we? Can we not have some fun?
That's fair. We want to have some fun. So you could do that. I think that's fair. I don't think it's unfair to speculate on that. I think there's some teams that obviously will have something to say about it in the West in particular, whether it's Vegas, whether it's Dallas, whether it's Colorado, that massive deal that Colorado pulled off. We'll see whether it pays dividends. It did yesterday, obviously, in New York when they beat the Rangers. And I think they're not done yet either because they have cap space. So Colorado could be a player in that too. But Edmonton right now is really doing well, playing well, especially when you consider they haven't had Connor McDavid for the last 3 games.
There was a massive deal in the NHL, and it came across my feed, and I kept reading blockbuster, and then I look at it. Pierre, I don't know if I'm old. I don't know what's going on, but I looked at the players in the deal, and I'm like, has anyone bought a ticket to see any of these guys play? And that's how I gauge a blockbuster deal. Tell me why the Mikko Rantanen deal was a blockbuster deal.
Talking about Rantanen going along with Taylor Hall later on and in that deal make a big difference. If Taylor Hall's your fourth line left winger, which he will probably be in Carolina, that makes a big difference. If Mikko Rantanen has this unbelievable chemistry with Sebastian Aho, the same as he had with Nathan McKinnon in Colorado, that's going to make it really difficult on teams in the Eastern Conference. I think there's an opening in the East where there's not a bunch of super elite teams. I think there are a couple. Toronto's one of them. So I think that makes a difference for Colorado. Why it's a blockbuster, it opens up cap space. It gives them a real good depth player in Jack Drury as a center iceman. And it gives them a budding superstar in Marty Necas, who had 2 assists in Colorado's win over New York yesterday. So I think on their side, it's cap friendly. It gives them younger players. It gives them a good depth player. And it gives them an opportunity to add at the trade deadline in Colorado. For Chicago, I'm still trying to figure it out, Dan. I won't even try to pretend. I don't know why you're paying part of a salary of Mikko Rantanen, a player you never even had in your organization except for maybe 30 seconds on paper, and you can't get it, and you're paying half the salary, and you got back a third-round pick? I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't understand that
part. I
don't
get it at all, but they've got their reasons why they're doing stuff in Chicago, and I don't understand it.
I had buddies all weekend selling me on Mikko Rantanen, and their case was if he played in Canada on a Canadian team, Canadian fans would have a better appreciation of just how good he is.
All right, so your friends are right. And here's what I'd tell you. The first time I ever saw Mikko Rantanen play was at the World Junior in Montreal, and you could see this guy was going to be a stud power forward. You really could. And then eventually, you get to be in the bubble with Colorado and all those teams back in 2020. And I'm watching them, and I'm there, and I'm going, this guy's just so good. You watch him practice every day. You watch him play with Nathan McKinnon and Gabriel Landeskog. That was the line. And you're like, whoa, everybody talks about Landeskog. This Rantanen guy's maybe a little bit better offensively. So it just shows you where he is pedigree-wise. But to me, the biggest thing about Mikko, he's hard. From the hash mark to the goal crease, there are not a lot of players in the league that can dominate the puck like he can in that area.
Pierre, we've been doing this since the start of the NHL season, and in all of the episodes leading up to this one, not once did you tell me before we hit record, have you seen this guy play? And you said that today about Cale Makar.
So the big thing, I get to watch all their games like everybody else, but their games are later at night, so I don't work in the morning except to do stuff with you. So I get to stay up and watch these games. And the thing that stands out to me about Cale is as he makes his Eastern swing, Saturday afternoon in Boston, they lose the game, but Makar's just unbelievably off the charts, dominating the puck and the pace of the game. Then you see him going to New York, get 2 goals and 1 assist yesterday. This whole massive voting block of people that, would obviously vote on a major award, they're watching him play, Dan. He's at a whole other level. I think the world of Quinn Hughes. I think the world of Lane Hudson. I think the world of all these great defensemen around the National Hockey League. There's not one guy right now. There's not one. It's not even close. There's not one guy playing like Cale Makar. There's not one. There's not one guy.
Sold. You sold me on it. Pierre, you got a big snowstorm coming. Are you prepared?
Yes. We got some snow coming up north. If you're a ski fan, get to Mont Tremblant, Quebec. The mountain could use your patronage, and the conditions will be really good.
Here's how Canadian we are. Just before we started here, we were talking about the heaviness of snow this year. You're Canadian when you can easily discuss, and everyone's on the same page about the weight of the snow so far in the year. Hopefully it's a light one, Pierre.
So well said. The last couple of weeks, the snow's been pretty light. Yeah. And now it's starting to get a little heavier. And I think part of that is because it's warming up a little bit. It was pretty cold the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, those snowstorms so far, one-hander shovel that driveway. We like one-hander snow. See ya, Pierre.
You're right, Dano. See ya.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.